Hello. Once again, I guess it's that time for Live from the Lily Pad. And I am your illustrious host, the Church Warden, aka the Walkie, come to you live from the Lily Pad here at the epicenter of the multiverse on Homebrew RP. Welcome once again to, what I hope will be a very interesting session this evening. Before we go anywhere with it, though, as always, I do want to point out my special guest here. Miss Iga Igson Oliak. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Tremendous artist I've discovered on Twitter. She does a lot of commission work. You can check her out there. Her link is available as well. This is actually a commissioned piece she did, and I think it suits tonight's demeanor, as it were. Tonight we're going to explore the mood of your game, setting an atmosphere, bringing the mists of mystery, mayhem, madcap, and macabre into your setting, depending on whatever you want it to. Now, this is a skill, especially as a game master, that I really would encourage you to foster, because as a game master, you are an entertainer. On so many levels. You are a bit part player, you're a lead part player, you are a provider of the narrative, the narrator, you are the entrepreneur of the entire experience for your players. And of course, as always, we will get a little bit into how you as a player, if you aren't a game master, how you as a player can actually help add to this as well and increase the overall experience both for yourself and of course the rest of the people involved. So, and this is actually one of my favorite parts. If you don't know this about me, I actually am an entertainer outside of gaming. I've played music professionally for a long, long time. I won't get into the exact amount of time because it reminds me how old I am. But I've done it for a long, long time, and I've been playing in bands and all manner of things. Delved into some movies and that type of thing, but it really adds a tremendous level to your game. And in fact, one of the things you're starting to see now in popular gaming circles, let's say, is a lot of professional entertainers are diving into this tremendous hobby, or they probably have for a long time. I'm not saying this they're just now starting, but it's becoming a much more popular thing because these entertainers are getting in and they're using their skill sets as voice actors, as actors, as composers to really bring that full package home so that you can get completely immersed in the story that you're witnessing or are a part of. So let's explore this evening how to better do that. Now, there are certain things that you can do live that you can't really quite accomplish as well or as easily, I should say, in a digital medium, which so many of us have now turned to, especially right now, things being as they are. It's kind of hard to gather at a table, and that's understandable. So the easiest way to do this is, of course, music, especially through the digital format. Now, I will say this, especially if you're a streamer, please be careful. There are copyright laws, and they do need to be adhered to, you will get penalized or shut down or have your content muted or censored if you don't follow the proper rules to this. Now, a lot of the services that are out there do offer certain atmospheric musical components. There's software such as Sirenscape. Roll20 has a lot of built-in music and sound effects that you can use. And this is kind of the direction I'm starting to see a lot of these digital tabletop mediums go, trying to be all-inclusive for the overall mood and atmospheric setting devices. If you're a little more creative or a little more brave, there's nothing wrong with composing your own music. And before you balk and say, oh my goodness, I could never do that, that's one of the things I want to go into just a little bit this evening, um, is the fact that it's a lot easier than you might realize, especially now. There are a lot of different pieces of software out there that make music composition easy, even for a novice, even for a beginner. Someone with no musical knowledge or aptitude even can dive right in and genuinely start creating a piece of music uh, without issue. Um, One of the real easy ones, unfortunately, is only available on Apple products, but it's a piece of software called GarageBand. I believe it's only $5 or $6 through their app store, but it really is a tremendous songwriting piece of software. And I mean, absolutely tremendous. And it is so easy to use that you can create anything from rock and roll to techno to hip hop to classical soundtrack inspired type music pieces. And you can do this in a matter of minutes. Now, keep in mind what you're doing when you're using this. You don't need to create some epic, drawn out, progressive rock, Rush style epic. I mean, you can, if you got it in you, knock it out. But there's a time constraint and an energy constraint for a lot of us. And it's a tough road to keep up with indefinitely. All you're needing is a theme for a mood, which is kind of what we're talking about. As your party is delving in, to someplace dark, you want to set a creepy mood. Set those dissonant keys, write in a minor key, bring something forward that you've heard or used, and don't be afraid to take inspiration. As long as you're not directly ripping something off, it's fine. There's very little out there these days that honestly is truly original. Everybody's influenced by everybody else, and that's completely normal. Nothing wrong with that. But um, within the Windows environment, there is a lot of other software that makes this a lot easier as well. Another great example is a piece of software called Fruity Loops, which may be a silly sounding name, I know. I was actually just playing with my uh, copy of it earlier today. In about 10 minutes, I wrote a 2-minute theme piece just to make sure I still could, but it is literally that easy. Both of the pieces of software present music in a very visual style. They help utilize kind of an intelligent means of harmony and making sure you're staying in key and in time and in meter. It does all that for you from a digital perspective and lets you just kind of play within the environment. I think even, let me see if I can get this loud enough. We'll try this. If it doesn't work, I apologize. But if it does, you'll kind of see what I'm meaning. Let's see here. I got my little iPad over here in the corner. So, like I said, hopefully this will be loud enough to hear. Let's see if it is. This is something that took about 15 minutes for me to do through GarageBand. As you can see, it's got the strings. It's just keeping a theme. There's a little bit of building as it goes. And it just kind of goes. Because, I mean, like I said, that's your point. You're just trying to make a theme. And this isn't very hard. 10, 15 minutes is all it took. You don't need musical ability to do this. It's all visual medium. It's more like just setting up patterns on a bar. And that's all it takes. And you could do this too. But anyway, if you branch into this, or if you have been branching into this, and you have anything that you like, questions, I do hope you'll join us in our Discord. Look me up. Send me what you got. I'd love to hear it. I love hearing people's work in this medium. If you need tips, I can share some with you happily. And I even have some of my own creations, which should hopefully be available soon through our homebrew digital presence, homebrew RP digital presence. So, without harping too much on what is arguably one of my favorite parts, we'll move on so we don't get too bogged down in one in particular thing part of this. Like I said, there's many ways to build an atmosphere. If you are playing live, for instance, with a group, which arguably is probably the most uh, intimate and open-ended way of gaming, because it allows you to do so much more in person that you can't do over digital medium. But if you are doing it in person, set the mood with visuals, with lighting. Sometimes this could be as simple as Christmas lights. Some people go all out with fake torches and stone wall backdrops and medieval style wooden tables. It's all in what you're willing to put into it. But I guarantee you, you will not regret going going overboard. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. You won't regret going overboard unless you make your significant other angry for spending too much money, or something of that like. But the gratification works, and on the digital front, it does as well too. There's so much software out there now that will allow you to engage your party in such a positive way too. Roll 20 is one of my personal favorites. Now I'm not saying it's the best; it's just personal preference because I've grown very familiar with it. But it offers dynamic lighting, token use, artwork, shared out handouts, personal notes, private interactions. It does have the background music available as well as sound effects. You can even upload your own music and sounds into it, provided that they're not breach of copyright. Um, there's also Fantasy Grounds, which is one of the older ones that's got a new rendition. I believe it's out kind of in beta right now. But one of the things I always liked about Fantasy Grounds was your ability to change the lighting between day and night and campground, and it's very easy to share visuals within Fantasy Grounds, and it does have a pretty inclusive library available too to try and make the game move a little easier. Um, there's a newer one called Astral Tabletop, which we've played with a little bit, and honestly, the more I mess with it, the more I like it. It has all the same features kind of that you do find in the others, but there's some little tweaks and things in there that make it stand out all on its own. The ability to manipulate um, dynamic environments, like actual animated imagery, which the others, at least I know, Roll 20 will allow, but it seems to do it in a very smooth way. And then, of course, we're all very excited about Tailspire, which is slated to be released this year through Steam, and that looks absolutely amazing because it actually looks like miniatures on a three-dimensional tabletop layout with all kinds of dynamic lighting and spell effects, and I'm really excited about it. And if you guys happen to see this, Homebrew RP would love to play test it for you. Just putting that out there. Um, but these visual mediums, both live, setting the mood, lighting, and smoke machines or whatever you choose to use, as well as through the digital medium, add that next level of interaction. I mean, it's a game that's in the mind. It's a role-playing game, and it's all based on the imagination. But setting the mood opens that up. It inspires the imagination to greater heights, which engages the players, engages the game master. It pushes the envelope of immersion and brings everything that much closer to coming to life in the minds of your players. So um, using visual medium is something I can't stress enough. Even if it's just simple handouts, when you walk into the room and you can show your players like this is what you see rather than oh it's a 10 by 40 foot stone room with dank water dripping from the ceiling and a musty smell in the air. If you can actually show them what they see, then it puts them in that place right off the bat. It puts them there. um, Once again, there is a large number of software that you can easily use to manipulate images to do this type of thing. I personally use Flowscape. Once again, this is available on Steam. If you follow our weekend campaigns, you'll see a lot of the Flowscape stuff being used as visual displays. There's also the virtual battle map also on Steam, which is really good for the dungeon environments. 3D and top down. They all have the top down option that you can use and even throw a grid on. So it's great for mapping. It's great for setting up visuals. Flowscape in particular is really good about allowing you to capture animated visuals too for both the top down and the 3D view. And I've used that in a number of situations, and I think my players really enjoyed it. They said they did at least. So I hope they weren't just being nice, but it's one of those things you can get really lost in really quickly, and I promise you, you will not regret the results. It's cathartic even making these types of things. So once again, that's another great way to set an atmosphere and a mood by actually showing from the ground's eye view what your players are seeing and throwing a little animated tweak in there or something to that effect to really bring it to life. Another fun method of setting the mood, and something I'm really seeing a lot of in recent years, especially through the digital format, is getting fully into character. You're starting to see more people show up to the game in full costume of their character. They cosplay it, they dress up the part, they use makeup and wigs, and it's really brilliant. Our dear friend Almond, who was part of a couple of our previous campaigns, she always showed up in character, full makeup, wigs and everything. It was always so much fun to see. And even when I watch other people's streams, and I do watch a lot of other streams, which is something I once again would recommend because you learn from every one you see. You'll learn something new, but there's a lot of that you see these days, and it adds so much to it, even if it's low budget, or not meant to be serious, if it's silly. It's still adding something to the game and setting that atmosphere and setting that mood and putting the mind in this place where fantasy and reality start to kind of blur, and it brings everything that much more to life. And of course, playing on that. And one of the things that some of the more famous tabletop gamers out there right now are big on is, of course, voice work. Now, a lot of people are very nervous about doing voices or accents, and honestly, I'm going to say, don't be. If it's fun, do it. As long as you're not hurting anybody, do it. That's the whole point of the game, is to have fun. I've played with many people over the years who have done accents for different races in the game, or tried to come up with unique inflection styles for their character. In some cases, copying other voices they've heard in popular media, movies and TV, and that's okay. That's really okay to do that. There's no harm, nothing saying you can't. Um, we're not all professional voice actors, and that's fine. It's we're playing a game, and once again, it's all about the fun. So try it. Sit down in front of the mirror, and if you really want to get good at it, and practice. I know there's actual YouTube tutorials out there on how to do this properly if you really want to make a go at it. But if not, throw it out there and have fun. Put a little accent on, and I promise, if somebody gets offended, just tell them you're just playing a game. It's not a big deal. I promise. You're probably not going to hurt anyone's feelings terribly unless you're just making fun of them. Um, so that's neither here nor there. But once again, if you have any examples of your own voice work and you want to share, like I get a real kick out of it myself. I'll never forget the first time I heard a person pull out the Scottish accent for a dwarf, or the high British for an elf, or something to that effect, and it works. It may be a little tropish, but as we've discussed in the past, tropes are tropes for a reason, because they work, because they're believable. I mean, even the Lord of the Rings movies, you kind of saw those same tropes come into being. Like I said, it works. It's there for a reason. Um, there's nothing wrong with it at all. But the last thing I want to go over, as far as setting an atmosphere and setting the mood, and this is by far and large probably the most powerful tool you have in your arsenal. Everything we've talked about so far, some of that requires a certain degree of practice or skill sets that can be acquired, but they take time, they take the effort. The most important thing you have in your arsenal is your vocabulary. Um, One of the things that made H.P. Lovecraft such a tremendous author in the realm of horror was his ability to use descriptive terms for things that are unimaginable. You see a lot of that. And you have this ability. It is not anything crazy or difficult to do. Um, it takes just a minimal amount of effort to, as I said earlier, you can tell a party, oh, you walked in a 20 by 40-foot stone room with dank water dripping from the ceiling. But if you really push that out there and get into it and say, as you cross this ancient threshold past the rotting wood of it, the oaken door now lying tattered and splinters and pieces, you can smell the rotten mildew coming off the old wood and the faint tint of coppery rust from the hinges that are no more. You enter into the darkened room, and all around you, you can feel the dank humidity like tendrils of icy fingers that seem to penetrate through the holes and chinks in your armor, gently caressing your skin in the most uncomfortable way. As your eyes adjust, you can see faint drips coming from the ceiling of some blackish, brackish water, and you just know that up there somewhere is something foul. And just as an example, right there, comparing the way I first described it to the way I just described it, I mean, it's not hard to see how much one paints an image more than the other. And I didn't use any big words. I didn't have to pull out a thesaurus. And if that's a tool that you need to do this, by all means, as I always tout, especially for you game masters, uh, prepare. You have to prepare if you want to be really good at this. Take the time, make the effort, write out descriptions if you need to. Get a thesaurus. If you want to, you can come up with 15 different words for dark, and every one of them is going to be better than the word dark because dark is the commonality. Dark works, dark gets your point across, but you could say you walk into a dark room, or you could say you are enveloped by the inky black Stygian night that perpetrates the room you have just entered. And it's so much more powerful. It paints so much more of a vibrant image in your player's mind and in yours. And you'll find that this is a type of chain reaction almost, that the more you push out, the more you get into it, the more involved you are, the more fun you're having. It becomes easier and easier as you get deeper and deeper into what you're telling. And I think the important thing is to let your passion fly. And that's where a lot of this is going to come from. If you're having fun, it's going to show. If you're inspired, it's going to show. So get inspired. Take the time, work out ways to describe the things you're going to see, come up with a way to show what you're going to see, paint the picture with sound and music, set the atmosphere and the mood. If you want to show up as a DM in a big crazy cloaked hood and laugh maniacally every time somebody rolls a one, I guarantee you it's going to be an unforgettable experience for everyone involved, you and your players alike. So please make that effort, set your mood, garner a positive atmosphere or a negative atmosphere, depending on the story you're telling, and run with it. Let that passion fly, let your inspiration go, and set that atmosphere in a way that your players will never forget. And players, this goes just as much for you, too. You have brought an imagined creature to life, a hero, somebody worthy of an epic story. How are you going to present that? How are you going to dedicate this story to this alter ego of the best parts of you thrown together under a new moniker, set forth on impossible adventures against impossible odds to become a legend? How are you going to sculpt the atmosphere of your character? It's to set the mood of this person that is. Are they the somber and dour, skulking anti-hero, or are they the bright, chipper, lovable hero everybody wants to be around? Set that mood. Create your own atmosphere. Use costuming. Use voices. Get pictures of your character. For instance, our guest this evening, Miss Igson there. There are so many artists out there that would love to draw your dream come to life on commission. There's so many out there, and if you do use their artwork, always give credit. And if you are able, please help these artists out. There's so many out there, and a lot of them are really making a go at this. And this is a great way for you to kind of lean on one another. And if you're an artist yourself, man, more power to you. If you want to share your art, once again, please come by Discord. Look us up online through Twitter, through Facebook, through Instagram, anything. I want to see your artwork. Honestly, I'd love it. And if you want to be featured on the Live from the Lily Pad, please hit me up. I'd love to air your work and give you a little push and a little credit for what you've done. We all love seeing it here, and I guarantee that you're going to have fans just for making the effort here with us. So please reach out, let us know, let us see, let us hear. Share your personal stories if you have something that works for you and you want to discuss it and let us know. I'd love to hear it. Like I said, I watch streams all the time because you never really stop learning and picking up new things and new tricks. Even after all this time, I still do all the time. I see people do things I would have never thought about, and it's inspiring. And it's one of the things that's great about our community of gamers and geeks and miscreants and weirdos. I love you guys all, and I'm glad to be a part of it, even now after all of this time. So, like I said, if you got something to share, please do. Reach out. Let me know. Let me see. Let me hear. I want to know all about it. We're on Discord. Hey, Karlowski, how you doing? Thanks for joining us. Um, but yeah, I'd love to see what you got to offer. Anytime. Just look us up. So, with all that out of the way, it's time to dive into our social experiment this evening. The continuation of our community crafted, vibrant, living town of Silver Falls. We've been building on this for weeks now and creating something alive and vibrant. It's becoming pretty incredible. I have to say, I've never created a town on this scale with this much input from outside before. and it really has offered a tremendous organic process. Oh, right on. I do the same thing, Karlowski, and podcasts. Thank you for reminding me. I actually meant to mention that earlier. Podcasts are a great source of inspiration, both ones where they offer instructional tips and tricks, kind of like this is, as well as storyborn ones, because the audio dramas out there are pretty much using nothing but sound effects and word to paint an immaculate picture. And some of these stories are just mind-blowingly good. Um, Once again, I'll try and make a list on our Discord or through Twitter or something to suggest a few to you guys. But I've actually picked up a lot of inspiration and tips and ideas from a lot of the ones I listen to. They're great. Oh, trying to get some advice from multiple sources on improv versus prep. Well, what are you struggling with in particular? Because there's two schools concerning improv and prep. Me personally, I would always recommend prep work, especially as a game master. But and I've said this so many times before, inevitably your players are going to derail your story at some point. It's just the nature of a group narrative. They're driving the story as much as you might be creating it. They're the ones kind of behind the wheel for a lot of it, because their actions will dictate the path it takes. So you have to be prepared to improv. But I think to successfully improv, you have to be prepared, if that makes sense. The more you know about your world and your setting and the situations that surround the narrative that they're playing inside of, the more you'll be prepared when they do go off book, and you gotta kind of run with the direction they've opted to go, unless you have a means of just railroading them back in. And a lot of players they can be a little resentful of that sometimes, but and we've covered some of that in previous episodes of this show, of how to um, direct the flow of the story. So you're running open world, or you're making theater of the mind. Theater of the mind's great. Um, well, visuals help a lot. Now, theater of the mind is great if you have the narrative ability to maintain it. And once again, that's not terribly difficult. You know, a large vocabulary obviously helps, but just being able to um, communicate your passion for what you're telling will go so far, as far as your ability to engage whoever's listening. Um, Visuals are pretty easy. I don't know if you had tuned in earlier. I actually went over a few very easy to use pieces of software that I use to create visual elements for the games that I run. And they're very easy to use. They're actually kind of fun to use. It's almost like a meditation when you get going. Flowscape is one of my favorites. I've got so many hours in Flowscape. It's ridiculous, but it's great for creating world environments. And you can even get down like a ground's eye view and look at it from a 3D three dimensional point of view. And the whole thing will even be animated. You'll see breezes blowing through trees, birds flying over, sun flares. The sky will gently move across, and it's really easy to use. You can create something pretty impressive in 30 minutes to an hour, because of the way the AI of the software works. And you don't need any type of incredible technical knowledge or even artistic ability necessarily to do it. Um, Obviously, it's one of those things you'll get better as you go. A slightly more advanced one would be like Virtual Battle Map, which is great for dungeon environments. Um, so I mean, there's some cool software out there. If you have artistic ability, a quick sketch sometimes is all it needs, just to put it out there. And of course, there's software out there like Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds, and all the digital tabletop media allow for at least overhead mapping and whatnot, and those aren't too bad. Is that the kind of thing that your players are looking for as far as visuals go, or I mean, I hope they're not wanting like a fully interactive 3-dimensional experience because I don't know, creating a VR environment might be a little tough. As fun as it would be. But yeah, I mean, there is a lot out there you can use, such as that, and you can get Flowscape and Virtual Battle Map on Steam. They're not expensive. I think Virtual Battle Map has a lot of DLCs to kind of expand on it. Maps and tokens, yeah. Uh, you know, I'd say the first half of my entire gaming career, I used absolutely no visual map or minis or anything. It was all theater of the mind, and I think most of us old timers started out that way. Even though D&D kind of came from a war game with a lot of that type of element, I think most of us really didn't use it until maybe advanced or second edition. Because I know basic D&D, you almost never saw that. But I mean, theater of the mind can work. It's just some people I think need the visual, and they kind of approach things from a logic brain strategic mindset. Oh yeah, so you're running a lot then. Very busy. That I mean I can understand that, and especially if it's all homebrew type stuff. It's a lot to take on. It's a real tough one. Because I mean, obviously, I know you want your players to have fun and you want everybody to be happy, and you definitely don't want anybody leaving in the middle of a game. Especially with homebrew, it can be difficult with homebrew because in essence, you are kind of play testing, tweaking as you're going. I will say that there are some options. You know, it's one of those things they may have to compromise with. I know, like Roll20, for instance, you can actually pretty much open up just a blank grid and draw on it, like in real time, and just use that. We've done that in the past for things on the fly, where it's just like, here's the basic dimensions of your room, you know, and the players can draw on it as well, and you just mark here, and then it'll move this way. Have everyone use a different color. There's built-in tokens you can literally drag and drop on Roll20. So I mean, there are ways to kind of make it easier if they insist on it, and you're willing to cater to that insistence just to keep peace and make people happy and make it a funner experience for them. But I know it is a lot of work. Believe me, I think I'm running a couple of games myself that are one's a full homebrew world of my own design, and the other one's a Planescape adventure that we do once a month. And there's really no pre-made maps, obviously, for any of it. Sigil is a lot of maps, but nothing real detailed. It was a crazy place, and then my homebrew stuff is being developed as we go. So I know what you're saying. I feel your pain. But yeah, the ability to draw in real time, I think, might help you out a lot. If, like I said, if you can get them to compromise, if they're not looking for um, anything too crazy. I will say, Roll20 just partnered up with an app developer. Uh, yeah, well, you can alter the dice system in Roll20 that you're using. There's a lot of options in there for that type of thing. But the interesting thing, like I said, is just the ability to work on the fly, to craft a quick visual, sketch it out, and have everybody interact with it all at once. It'll save, I think, a lot of hassle if you try it. Um, and I think, like I was saying, they just partnered with an app developer who is actually making a modular system for mapping. And granted, it's more of the classic, basic first edition D&D map style with the blue graph style with the same map keys from back then. But it allows you to just say, well, here's a hallway, bloom, here's a square room, bloom, based on the dimensions that you need. You're just sketching out and it grids it all automatically for you. So once that's released, it may make what you're doing even easier, depending. But yeah, um, in fact, if you ever want to, man, pop into our Discord. We've usually got one or two of our DMs in there, and we might even be able to help hook you up with some people who could help make that easier for you. I don't know. It just depends on who's around and who's got time. But the whole point of our little community we've been building is just to kind of grow and help and other people and generate content. So yeah, pop in sometime. We'll see if we can help you out. Definitely. Definitely. So yeah, there you go. Yeah, hop in there. We'll see if anyone's around tonight, but there's usually somebody around at some point or another. Just feel free to reach out. Everybody's really friendly. They're all good folks, and I DM for a great portion of them. So if they're not, let me know, and I'll I don't know, do nasty DM stuff. But speaking of your theater of the mind element, we are tonight kind of going over setting a mood and an atmosphere. One of the ways I kind of went over doing that was actually through theater of the mind and being able to paint a picture using nothing but words. There are a lot of tricks for that. Hey, anytime, Karlowski, anytime. You're always welcome, brother. But yeah, they going into our Silver Falls construction here. As you can see, as I scroll through, we've got a good bit of information forming. One of the things we haven't really set is what is Silver Falls like, and I kind of want to go over that a little bit tonight. I think now we know that in the world that Silver Falls exists in, there's been a cataclysmic event. There's a terrible void energy that has kind of permeated the world of Cairn itself. So things don't really grow anymore except in a few rare places, and the things that are still living and natural have been twisted by it to a degree. So in the part of the world where we've placed Silver Falls within the Bechtlerite Empire, Silver Falls is kind of in a perpetual dusk to night cycle. It never really gets much brighter than dusk or dawn because of the blighted void energy that permeates the area so bad. So it's always this dusty, dusk colored, cloudy sky with we've talked about the ruin of the forest that was once around the area. It's all just dead, twisted brush and trees and rotting wood and brambles. Um, a lot of unnatural things that creep around at night, and we know we've to a degree set up that it's a hostile place. It's an unfriendly environment and not an easy way of life. You recently completed your player manual. The lore is some of my favorite parts when it comes to homebrew. Um, man, if you ever want to share that, Karlowski, we I'd love to look it over. You're free to, if you want. I know some people keep that tight, close to the chest, and I don't blame you if you do. But if you ever want to share it or you want to critique or anything, feel free to share it. Yeah. No worries, no worries. No, it's just what I was saying is to paint an image of the town that we've got there. Um, it's a little bit of a ramshackle. So we know it's a dangerous environment, a hostile portion of the world. So Silver Falls most likely is going to have some form of defense against the outside, both the threats from the burnt crows and the lycanthrope that stalks the ruins of the woods, but also from the twisted natural dangers of the world itself. So we're going to have some sort of wall or palisade. Most likely, I would say we're probably going to end up going with stone walls because, as I said, uh, it's very difficult to get wood that's worth using anymore. Wood is actually used as a form of currency now because it's so rare. Um, but the walls or palisades, there's plenty of rubble and rock around, so they've probably been quarried, drug up, and bricked at least some type of wall around it, just to keep the basic dangers at bay. They imagine they keep a ring of lights around. Torchlighters would probably be a big job there, but would also further add to the atmosphere with the torchlight and the way it refracts through the dust. We would also most likely have a very vigilant guard system around the walls. So you can kind of picture in your mind, there's kind of maybe a ring fort style wall. The buildings would be clustered away from the wall in the center, with the heart of the town being the buildings that handle infrastructure and storehouses and food preparation. The important things, followed by the houses, and then I imagine that, I hate to say it, but probably the more poor you are, the closer to the walls you are. Um, if you can post a link to the Discord, because I know Discord has a size limit to what you can drop. But yeah, if you have a link you can post to it, that would be perfect. I'll definitely take a look at it. Uh, I don't know if we have our Dropbox right now, but I'll find out for you. I'll find out for you. Especially if you've joined our Discord, I can send you a message once we get it that set up. If you don't have a way to link it, I'll see if we can set up a way for you to be able to drop a PDF to us. Definitely. Um, Especially if Lord of Chance is in there, he'd probably be able to tell you for sure. He kind of runs a lot of the tech side of our Discord. But yeah, no, I'd actually look forward to that. I love homebrew material. As anyone who knows me can tell you, I use a lot of it myself. So, um, and it's cool. One of the things I've always said about D&D, especially being a bit of an old school D&D player, is originally so much of D&D was encouraged to be homebrew. Like, especially you go back into basic and the very beginnings of advanced Dungeons and Dragons, first edition Dungeons and Dragons. It wasn't until a little bit later that all the like game worlds really started becoming more popular, like Greyhawk and Forgotten Realms and whatnot, which are great. But I for so long, like you just kind of made your own world and populated it with things over the course of play, and there were so many variants, and from the very simple where it was just here's your world, I'll make up stuff as we go, to I actually played in a campaign that was created by a doctor when I was in high school, and the level of detail, he had probably about 15 different groups around the country playing in his world and exploring different parts of it as they went, and in doing so creating this enormous, highly detailed map and lore and history, just because there were so many independent groups each working on their own independent part of it. It came out to this insanely diverse and vibrant setting. It was really brilliant. I wish I had a copy of it. I would love to share it. if I ever find the guy again or anyone else who played in it, I will definitely be posting links to that because it's really cool. And part of that experience is actually what inspired me with my own homebrew world here, the world of Cairn, which we're actually playtesting on Saturdays now with new races and classes and everything. Working on some new rule modifications and whatnot as well as we go. But that's the type of thing that inspires me. And I'm very detail oriented, so I like to bring as much of it to life as possible. Through ecology and socioeconomic, political structures, the history, the tall tales and myths and legends, cults and religions and philosophies. And it's fun for me to do that. And if you're doing it, I imagine you're probably in the same boat. It's one of the things that makes the game so vibrant and eternal. I think is the fact that it is constantly changing. But yeah. I'm just rambling on. You have to forgive me. Anyway, like I said, that I know I didn't get too much in depth, and that's fine because honestly, I had more fun talking to our friend Karlowski here. I always appreciate interaction, but I think the real kicker, I think, is that I think we painted a little bit of a picture of, at least on the outside, what our little town looks like. The little ramshackle stone homes with slate roofs, the wall around it kept vigil by torchlight, everything clustered as close to the center as you can get it to protect the water supply and the food and the infrastructure. It's like a bunch of people huddled against the night and the cold, and that's kind of I think a good feel for the town based upon what we've written about it with the burnt crow terrorist cells and the lycanthrope that works with them out in the woods and all the underlying conspiracies and everything that's going on. I think that'll really set the mood if we ever have any players come through this part of the world and find this. Definitely. But the main thing there is that we've definitely created that environment. We've created the mood and the atmosphere, and that was kind of our goal for the evening. Like I said, hopefully very soon I'll have some original music available to be used in people's games on our website once it's kind of completed. I know we're going to be posting a lot of original content to be used from characters that have come across our games, come and gone, NPCs we've used, maps and locations, and even some full-blown dungeons and campaigns. Once they're ready, we'll be just dumping all those out there for people to use. So keep an eye open for that, and we'll keep updates going out both here and through our other broadcasts and through Discord and our other social media. But I think for me, I think I'm going to call it for tonight. Karlowski, it was a real pleasure meeting you, brother. I hope we do see you again, and I hope you'll stick around, get to know everybody. This is a good crew here, and I think it'll be beneficial to all of us. But with that said, the rest of you viewing, I want to thank you as well. Once again, I am the Church Warden, aka the Wonka, coming to you live from the Lily Pad here at the epicenter of the multiverse on Homebrew Roleplay. And we will see you next week. Good night.